So I'm at the Elias Community Centre today. Back inside there, Alfred, Shia and Nabil, they're waiting for a 4-man, 4,000 point version 3 game. Alright, go. So if we're playing a version 3 game?
Yeah. So we will need to do 3 d6 dice rolls. We need to figure out what the victory conditions are, the deployment zones, as well as the deployment type. So it's quite random.
So we rolled a 5 for the victory conditions, meaning that we'd be playing the demolition scenario, which can be found on page 166 of the version 3 rulebook. In this mission, we'd basically be trying to destroy each other's bases whilst trying to protect our own. We rolled a 1 for the deployment zones, which meant that we'd be playing along the long edges and not in the quarters. You can find this on page 169. Alfred and I, as the Germans, got to choose as player A, and we chose the far edge of the table, as you can see in the map over here, meaning that Shia and Nabil would be playing on the close side of the table, as you can see in this map. And then finally, for deployment type, we rolled a 3, which meant that we'd be playing a meeting engagement. The rules for this are found on page 170. For meeting engagement, both teams, or both players, in our case teams, are able to deploy up to half of our units off table in reserve. Alfred and myself, as the Germans, chose to have no reserves. Nabil and Sia chose to place their base behind that wooded hill on the bottom right of the photograph here, whilst Alfred and I, we chose to place our base behind that double-story grey-roofed building with that purple dot near the top of the image. So with the mission decided and table edges chosen, let's have a quick look at the armies involved in today's game.
Alright, so here we have the company of British Paras. Each company has 3 squads, and each squad is made up of 1 Van 1 loader and 5 riflemen, together with the platoon commander. And for some reason, Sean Connery managed to procure 2 comets to support them.
Alright, so 2 comets?
Yes.
Is it
regular
so
comets.
2 regular comets?
Yes.
Alright, and then
Veteran Paras.
3 squads of veteran parabats?
Yes.
Okay, and then your officer commanding?
Yes.
So I brought 1,000 points of Americans. I brought 2. So this is my rifle platoon, and this is my armored platoon.
Okay.
So within my armored platoon, I have 3 squads of riflemen, each with 1 BAR, 7 riflemen.
7 riflemen, 1 BAR.
Correct. Then sniper team, bazooka team, forward air observer, and officer with rifle.
Okay.
Yeah, and then here is my armored platoon.
Yeah.
A Greyhound, a Hellcat, and a Sherman, all regular. And these 2, the Greyhound and the Hellcat, have HMGs on them.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks.
May the best German platoon win.
Okay, this is the command team, which is consisting of 2 inexperienced soldiers. One is actually the commander officer, and the other is actually his batman. Then you have an inexperienced Cooper wagon and a light truck, which is also inexperienced. But for the mortar team, you have 2 medium mortars, with one of which has a what we call spotter.
Spotter, okay.
And you have 2 medium machine guns, all of them regular. Then followed by.
Alright, so this is 1 squad, right?
Yes, this is 1 platoon.
1 platoon.
This is 1 platoon.
Okay, and then at the back?
At the back is your infantry platoon,
Right.
which is the mandatory infantry platoon.
Yeah.
You have the 2 leaders.
Yeah.
Both of them are with SMGs. No, wrong. They are with the
assault rifles.
Assault rifles.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And then you have the Waffen SS assault squad, which is all of them having the assault rifles.
Okay.
8 of them, and they are veterans.
Okay. 8 veterans armed with assault rifles.
Yes. And then followed by a regular squad with 2 LMGs.
Yeah.
And then you have your light mortar, which is also inexperienced.
Yeah.
And then you have the veteran sniper team.
Okay, that's great. Your squads, and
Okay.
platoons?
So the command vehicle is the Panzer IV,
Right.
followed by with the Whirlwind,
Yeah.
and you have got the Stuck, which is a Stuck 42.
Ah, okay.
Stuck 42.
Two, right.
Yeah. And then you have a Puma heavy.
Okay.
Okay.
5cm gun, right?
5cm gun, and it's a rating 8.
Okay. Recce? Does it have recce?
Recce.
Okay.
It has recce.
Right.
Okay. This is the recce platoon.
Okay.
You have the commanders.
All right.
Okay. So the commanders are actually regulars, both of them with assault rifles.
Okay.
And then you have the Hill Grenadier Squad, which is actually with double light machine guns
Right.
and four other rifles.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have got 2 Hanomaks,
Right.
which are regulars,
Okay.
and you have got a anti-tank rifle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's yours. Nice.
This is of course the motorcycle squad.
Okay. So these 6 men
Represent the dismounted and
are mounted on these 2 motorcycle teams.
Sidecars.
Sidecars. Okay. Combos. Okay. Good. So a total of how many points?
Total of 2,000 points.
Yeah.
22 order dice.
Wow. Okay. What you're going to hear next is myself narrating the story that Nabil set up for us. And his story is actually our after-action report. It was a warm summer's day in the Dutch countryside. In a small hamlet, soldiers of the 30th Corps were seen milling about the houses, waiting for orders from high command before making their final advance into the city of Arnhem. Suddenly, the peace was shattered as the ground rumbled and the sound of tortured metal pierced through the air. A column of elite panzer troops burst through the tree line on the edge of the town, ready to push the Allied forces back and beat Montgomery's rush for the bridge once and for all. An American officer quickly grabbed his binoculars, surveying the scene as Allied troops rushed to find whatever cover they could on the far side of the town. In the center, the bulk of the German armor began to hammer down the streets, led by a Panzer IV and covered by an Ostwind. On the right flank, Panzer Grenadiers mounted on trucks and half-tracks sped down the road, dismounting and taking up positions in some of the destroyed buildings. On the left flank, a reconnaissance troop of motorbikes and a Puma began to cut the Allies' lines of communication to the main body. The Germans appeared to be hurriedly setting up a forward field base in the middle of the town. The battle soon erupted as the Germans began to zero in on the displaced Americans with mortars. A lucky shot eliminating an American air forward observer right at the start of the battle. Determined to destroy as much German armor as possible, an M18 Hellcat was ordered forward to destroy the Panzer IV, but was forced back into cover by a Puma lying in ambush just behind a hill. Squads of American soldiers were ordered forward in a desperate attempt to retake the town. Yet they were pushed back by withering and disciplined German machine gun and rifle fire coming from the buildings. The Panzer Grenadiers began to make their push for the objective just as an M4 Sherman tank took up its position on a road, ready to outflank them and to take out as many of the German troops as possible. A huge explosion rang out, and a cloud of smoke spewed out from the hedge as the German Panzer IV fired its main gun towards the Sherman, forcing its crew to reverse the tank out of the battle to prevent its destruction.
So a pin vehicle is treated somewhat differently. A pin vehicle must still take an order test to attempt an action, but if this is failed, and if the vehicle has visible enemy to its front arc, it must make a reverse move if it's able to do so before going down.
So how far back does he reverse if he's failed his...
say, but it should be the full.
Your reverse is full.
Full.
So it's half of an advance.
Correct.
So what does that mean for your Sherman then?
So it's off the map.
So he failed his motivation test and he reverses back.
Yeah.
Off he goes.
Correct.
Wow. British parabats, rallied by their commanders, began to join the fray. A pair of brand new Comet tanks charged down on the right flank, but were pinned by light German anti-tank and mortar fire. Explosions and chunks of shrapnel began flying in all directions as bomb after bomb fell on top of the British armour. Flak guns from the Ostwind opened up, desperately trying to keep the fire from the Comets at bay. Determined to prevent the Germans from overrunning their positions, the British parabats charged across open ground, braving fire from the MG-42 in the house at the edge of the field. Fierce hand-to-hand combat ensued, and the machine gun was ultimately wiped out. The Panzer IV, making good use of the cover provided by the hedge line, continued to dominate the centre of the town, crippling the Hellcat in its attempt to outflank the advancing Panzer Grenadiers. Working in tandem with the Puma, the Panzer IV effectively blunted the American advance towards their base. Neither the Hellcat nor the Greyhound had any opportunity to push through to the German lines. 30th Corps was caught in an effective German ambush. German half-tracks had free rein on the streets, and the German soldiers fired freely with their new Sturmgewehrs into the Allied forces. Squad after American squad was being wiped out. The M18 Hellcat tank commander stuck his head out and began firing back with his M2 heavy machine gun, deciding that he had to do something to even the odds. But there was little he alone could do. A Stu-42 opened fire with its howitzers into the Allied positions in the woods, shattering what remained of the 30th Corps defensive line. Pushed back, the Allies readied themselves to make a final stand. The German officers, confident in their victory, pushed their forces forward towards their objective, surrounding the British paratroopers as they defended their home base. The German officer in the Kubelwagen was immediately pinned down by the Hellcat's M2-42 machine gun's fire. Left with little choice, what remained of the American forces fixed bayonets and threw themselves into the Germans, their Sturmgewehrs made useless by the blades lunged and the grenades thrown at them. The soldiers fought on for what seemed like an eternity, with casualties heavy on both sides. But by the time the dust settled, only the American soldiers were left standing at their base.
Game over.
Right, so we've just had a 2,000 point game. Actually, it was 4,000, right, guys? 4,000, 2,000 points per side. Alfred and I played the Germans, yep. And Shah and Nabil played British and Americans, right?
Yep.
And then we had one strange guy watching there. All right, welcome Zul. Right, so we're just going to have a very short, quick talk about things that we've learnt in this game. So it's our first big version 3 game, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So who'd like to kick it off? Who wants to start?
I'll start first.
All right, go for it, Nabil.
Since on the table that's what happened first, so my my Sherman actually failed the morale check after it got pinned, and then what happened was that it actually ran out because in version 3 you can't down vehicles. They actually retreat if there is another enemy.
They retreat first
Yeah, they
before
actually
they down.
Yes. So I was on the table edge. What I meant was it's off the table.
Right. So do I understand this correctly? If if you fail your motivation test
Yeah.
to get an order going,
Yeah.
your tank has to withdraw.
Withdraw first. Yeah. It has to withdraw first. So in this case, it withdrew off the tabletop.
Because they could see enemy in front.
Yeah.
Right. So the lesson learned here is don't keep your tank's butt too close to the table edge. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Nice. Xiao, you had an interesting situation. You rolled a double 6, right? What's that called?
Yes, fucked up beyond all recognition. Basically, the players went to the edge of the forest to shoot out, but then got stuck by the stuck opposite the map there.
All right. So Zul, what's that called?
A FUBAR.
So FUBAR, you roll double 6, and then you got to do a test on which page?
On page 71, please.
Page 71.
Yep.
And you test to see what happens if you roll double 6, right?
Yeah. So on you roll a d6, 1 to 3 is friendly fire, and then 4 to 6 is panic. So unfortunately, shall roll a panic. It's off the table. Yes.
You ran it off.
Yeah.
But didn't you also lose a tank to motivation?
Yeah, but that's not so much of a big deal. Aside from the getting pinned by that little thing over there called the verbal wind.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So tell us about that verbal wind, Alfred.
So the whirlwind is actually 4 autocannons together, which is called a flag whirling.
Flat feeling.
Flag
All right.
whirling.
Yeah.
So with that, actually you roll 8 dice and the HE.
Yeah.
And it doesn't kill, but it certainly delivers pins.
And you were peppering Xia's
Both the
comets,
cromwells.
right?
Yeah, the
Comets,
comets,
right?
yeah.
I must say, when you came onto the table with those comets, I was panicking. They look menacing. They're huge.
And I'm still upset with the opening shots from the comet. They failed. The spotter and also the truck behind them.
Actually, it turned out that the mortar fire was quite effective in this game.
Yes.
So
that's true.
I
That's
used
true.
a light mortar, and turn 1,
Yeah.
my first order dice that came out,
Kills the air observer.
I used a light mortar, and it nailed his air observer. Yeah, so that was amazing.
No more fighters.
Yeah. And waiting for him, not for the Americans.
So what do you guys think of version 3? Seeing that this is like one of our first major version 3 games, how does it compare for you guys compared to version 2? What are you guys thinking?
I think in terms of building the list, it gives you a lot more options, but a lot more things to think about. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot more tanks now. I mean, if I wanted to, I could bring like more mortars, more artillery pieces,
Yeah.
which makes building another list to compete against it much harder. I feel so. It's tougher that way. I feel. Yeah.
Don't you also think with version 3 that you're getting, you're saying more options?
Yeah.
So your opponents are a little more unpredictable in what they're going to be bringing to the
A
table.
lot more. And when it comes to determining what the missions are, it's just really more interesting now.
Right.
Yeah,
What do you think, Zul?
Based on what I've actually seen, I've seen this game and one on Monday. Although you see mass tanks in
So there's more tanks, right?
There's more tanks on
Yeah.
the table as well. It still evaporates as fast as in comparison to B2. Yeah.
Or it guns off.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why is it? Why is it that you got more tanks, but the tanks don't seem to be as menacing as before?
I think because if you have 3 tanks versus 3 tanks, you can actually maybe one tank can take down 2 tanks, and then the opponent's 2 tanks can somehow just get 3 kills in the game.
Right.
It's tanks up. They are they seem more glass cannony than they were in V2.
Yeah.
So would you guys say that version 3 is still an infantry game?
It still feels like an infantry game.
Yeah, it's still especially on this scenario we played today. Our mission was demolition, so we had to have infantry. So if you don't have enough infantry to sustain you throughout the fight, you're still gonna either lose or draw the game.
Right. And I think we saw it here with the Germans trying to take. So we were pushing hard towards the objective. And even though we were pushing, we just ran out of steam a bit, don't you think?
Yeah.
Because a lot of our points would actually, if you think about it, if you look at the table, a lot of our points are sucked up in armored vehicles, not able to actually achieve the objective.
Yes.
And the infantry that we needed for achieving the objective just ran out of steam. We just didn't have enough.
Yeah. Just to share as well, on Monday I played the exact same list with the exact same mission set, exact same deployments, exact same victory conditions, everything.
Right.
And I know in the end it was close assault which drew the game, which also goes against to show that it is still very much an infantry game, and that's something you should think about when you build your list. Don't get too carried away by the tanks and the shiny
It's
stuff.
just a distraction.
It's just a distraction. Yeah.
So it's still an infantry game.
It's still an infantry. You still need a steam to push through. Yeah.
Do the Germans and other nations, other factions, do they still get a lot of anti-tank weapons, the infantry?
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, now with the cover saves, now with hitting on 4 pluses, it's still going to be just as hard to destroy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys enjoy this game?
Yeah. Good game. I need more British screws.
You need more what?
British screws.
More British screws. You need infantry. Yes, I agree. I'm going to be taking a closer look at what infantry I have available for version 3. I must say that I'm really pleased to have got my first version 3 game under my belt with a little help from my friends Alfred, Xia and Nabil. Now that I've got one game under my belt, I do feel a little more at ease. When version 3 was on the horizon, there were rumours of how there'd be many more tanks on the battlefield. And this concerned me because I am an infantry game player. However, looking at my Winter German Army collection, in my rifle platoon alone I can take squads that can have up to 4 Panzerfaust each. So I'm feeling a little less concerned about the arrival of tanks on the battlefield. But if you don't play Germans, the supporting teams, the supporting platoons that can come with your rifle platoon, such as the heavy weapon platoon, they can get anti-tank equipment. So like heavy weapon platoons can have anti-tank rifles, or Piats, or bazookas and such. Or you could purchase anti-tank guns from the artillery platoon. So never fear. I think version 3, from my impressions, is still going to be a balanced game. I don't think tanks are going to force the domination on a table, and I still think we're going to have huge amounts of fun playing bolt action. So I hope you enjoyed the contents of this video. Please do smash like and consider subscribing to this channel if you enjoy the contents thereof. But in the meantime, happy gaming!